Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg. Anyways, that's Whoopi Goldberg for you, honey. The big WG, baby. Anyways, so for y'all who don't know, and I don't know which rock you've been under, but if you don't know, Whoopi is a co-host of The View, along with a few other women. And she's been there for quite a long time. The girl should have tenure by this point in time. She's earned her seat. She is practically the moderator. She is the protagonist. She does her thing, okay? I don't know where The View would be without Whoopi. And probably The View thinks the same thing, which is why they've responded the way they've responded after Whoopi made the comments that she made, where they were speaking about a book, right? And the graphic novel Moss by Art Spiegelman, right? Which is like the Holocaust theme and so forth and whatnot, because the whole main discussion was, they're trying to take out the discussions of race in public schools, because they feel like that is creating a sense of guilt among Caucasian kids, okay? And so to relieve them of this guilt, they're saying, let's strip race from the curriculum altogether. And now we have something like the Holocaust, which is then it's spread to, so it's everything is just one thing after the next. They did it with To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, they've just been taking out a lot of literature out of the curriculums, anything that may prompt serious discussions or may actually represent what we go through in society. They are now like declining to reinstate it in the curriculum. So Whoopi said, let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. I'm quoting her. The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race. She then went on to say, like, after the backlash, that she misspoke, okay? The thing about it is, when Whoopi said that, I understood where Whoopi was coming from, right? And I think this is the part that really and truly didn't get home to a lot of people. It's the fact that Whoopi was talking about, Whoopi, like many people in the world, have been taught about race through the physiological attributes and commonality that those attributes are shared amongst a group of people via a race. And that's how we've been taught to look at race for eons, okay? And so especially when this is what you're taught, then now in society it's reconfirmed, it is reaffirmed, okay? It is made concrete in your minds. So you don't see a person, say, of my skin tone, and you say, hey, are you Latina? No, you just assume I am Latina or I am Black, but you don't ask, because you're just thinking about my physical characteristics. If I wear my hair curly, right, you're going to say to yourself, okay, so she's Latina, right? No. Let me take that back. If I wear my hair curly, you're going to think to yourself, okay, she's possibly mixed, right? She's biracial. If I wear my hair straight, then you're going to think, oh, she's Latina. She's probably Dominican. You know what I'm saying? Probably something of the sort. So just that small change may make a world of a difference. If I wear my hair pulled back, you'll probably just say, well, she's just a Black woman, right? The fact of the matter is, you're going to garnish your opinion based upon my attributes, my physical attributes, right? And that's what we do to others. So if I see someone who has specific features of their eyes, where their eyes are hooded, or they don't really have much of a lid, or they're very oval in shape, as in very curved in shape, much smaller, I'm going to think that person is Asian. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, if I see somebody who's Caucasian, again, you see what I just did? That just reaffirms what it is that I'm saying. I said, if I see somebody Caucasian, and I was about to describe someone who's white, of white skin tone. But the fact of the matter is, somebody of white skin tone doesn't have to be Caucasian. But I'm not going to go to a person and say, hey, so are you Jewish? Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? Like, you're going to look at that person and group that person into a category, right? And then also you have to think about the fact that being a Jew applies both racially as well as religiously. So it is complex. It's not as simple as others make it out to be. So it's not that I agree with Whoopi, but it's that I understand with Whoopi what she was saying. I understand the concept of what happened. I get it. It's not a matter of, oh my gosh, like she said something and that was racist or something of the sort. Whoopi was simply talking about physiologically, what was the difference between Hitler and all his groupies, okay, the Aryan race, and Jews, because they are the same skin tone. So usually that's what I'm saying. It boils down to physiologically, and the number one physiological attribute that separates races that has been solidified in culture, in society, in the way we're treated as people, in what, in if you're treated humanely or inhumanely, if you're treated with kid gloves, if you're treated with whips and chains, with this and the third, whatever the case is, that literally says, hey, you're gonna be redlined, or hey, you've got a green light. The thing that determines what schools you get into sometimes, the way in which you're treated by police officers is skin tone. It's in the number one physiological attribute, okay, that we consider when we're thinking to ourselves, yeah, how do I treat this person today? So I'm gonna need for you guys to kind of understand where Whoopi is coming from. It's like it's been indoctrinated. You're a black person in America, you're gonna be treated the worst on the Richter scale. Be happy and excited and gracious, okay, if you're not, right? Because that's like a one-hit wonder when it comes on to certain things. But be aware that this is what it is. And if this wasn't the case, then we wouldn't even be talking about it. I'm going to be able to give you examples, from here to there, this decade, or, last decade, this year, last year, of decisions that were made solely off the base of someone's skin tone. So I say that to say, when Whoopi was looking at it, that is what the word I think she truly missed. It was skin tone. They were both the same skin tone, okay? Because in her mind, like many people, skin tone equals race. So that's why she said it wasn't about race. It wasn't about race. It was about skin tone. Skin tone is the same thing. They both look like one another. You understand? That's why she grouped them into that category, right? And, after that whole situation there, she got a lot of backlash from Deborah Messing, who's an actor, or actress, I should say. And she tweeted, "You deeply hurt and offended me by minimizing the horror of the Holocaust, the systematic annihilation or annihilating of 6 million Jews, which, by the way, is a race and attempted genocide to white on white crime. You all lives mattered us." Devastating and dangerous. Piers Morgan, talk show host, said Sharon Osbourne was fired from The Talk for defending me against a fake charge of racism. Right? Whoopi Goldberg said on The View yesterday that the Holocaust wasn't about race, which for Jewish people, it was about as racist a comment as anyone could make. But she doesn't lose her job. Michael Rappaport, who's an actor and a comedian, released a video on Twitter stating it was effing all about, only about race. He says, adding, "You need to apologize. You need to explain yourself. Not good, not cool." Meghan McCain, a former host on The View, tweeted, "I hate commenting on my old employer because I have moved in every way a person can move on." She wrote, "That being said, I am an activist against anti-Semitism and is a big part of my life. The growing threat is real and virulent and everywhere. I am heartbroken about what was said." MSNBC Morning Joe hosts are upset over the 2 week suspension, which is what Whoopi got. Whoopi got a 2 week suspension, y'all. It's paid, by the way. Okay. And basically, Joe Scarsborough, he said, she made a terrible mistake. We all make terrible mistakes. She apologized for it immediately and took corrective actions. Now I want to know who is so frail over at ABC. Mika Brzezinski was also critical of ABC's decision, saying, learning that has come out of the situation has been valuable to the View's audience. Everyone knows Whoopi Goldberg, Brzezinski. Y'all ain't gonna play me. Mika, she continued. She's been on TV for decades. She's been putting herself out there for decades. If you don't know her heart, then you haven't been watching. And so that's why the 2 week suspension to me seems more about this unbelievable need to punish and judge people when they've made a mistake. She added, if Whoopi Goldberg is canceled, that would be the end of this all. This cancel culture is getting so out of hand. Now, David Badiel, who's a comedian and writer, commented, right? The problem with it is that there are so many issues, and I'm a fan of Whoopi Goldberg's, but there are so many issues with what she said. It does reveal an awful lot about the confusions people have around anti-Semitism that are explored in my book. One of the principal things going on here is the resistance to the idea that anti-Semitism is racism. He continued, what does Whoopi Goldberg think it is? What a lot of people think it is religious intolerance. He also explores his contention that those who think of themselves as on the right side of history have often ignored the history of anti-Semitism, and that Jews don't count as a real minority. The Nazis were not interested in faith, they were interested in racial purity. He goes on to say, there's a specific thing that I think is going on here, he explained. The whiteness of Jews is a very complex thing. Schrodinger's whiteness, which he said means that Jews are seen as white or non-white depending on the politics of the observer. He said that for centuries, far-right groups have seen Jews as not part of the white race, adding that on the far left, the association of Jews, which is a racist thing, with power and privilege makes them kind of super white. What that ends up with is it takes away from the specifics of the racism to something very bland and general. But what's going on here is a very particular type of genocide. In response to her specific phrase, there were two sides fighting. He said, this was not two sides fighting. This was an ethnic group being marked out to be destroyed by a military industrial machine. And he goes on to say, in the article, the Holocaust is widely defined as the state-sanctioned extermination of Jews by Nazi Germany across Europe during the Second World War. It is estimated that around 6 million Jews were killed, as well as millions of others, included foreigners, disabled people, and homosexuals. The Nazis' persecution of Jews was explicitly racial rather than religious. Judenpolitik targeted not only practicing Jews, but also people who had converted to Christianity and those with Jewish grandparents. Now, I want to go back to what happened after, The View and stuff like that. She did an interview with, I believe it was Colbert, right? On the Late Show. And she says, when you talk about being a racist, you can't call this racism. This was evil. This wasn't based on skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. You had to delve deeply and figure it out. I don't want to fake apologize, she said. I'm very upset that people misunderstood what I was saying. And because of it, they are saying I'm anti-Semitic and denying the Holocaust and all these other things that would never occur for me to do. I thought we were having a discussion about race, which everyone is having. She says she also spoke to Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League, and he said that the Holocaust was about the Nazi systemic annihilation of the Jewish people, who they deemed to be an inferior race. And then she said, I stand corrected. And there have been other people who actually have come out to her, defense, quote unquote. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says Whoopi Goldberg's suspension is unnecessary because she's already made good with the community she offended. Lamar Odom, okay, I don't know why. Oh my gosh, I do not know why. But I just went straight into Lamar Odom. But guys, listen, we have to have a little bit more tolerance in society. I think that it's so crazy to me, and I don't really want to compare it because it's incomparable if you ask me. But I think that we as a black race have had a lot or given a lot of grace to people for the comments they made, for the ways they behaved, like over the longest period of time, way more than anybody really deserves. And I feel like we understand the concept of it takes time. We understand the concept of it's a learning curve situation. We understand that concept too much, if you ask me. And I just kind of feel like we need that as people in general, no matter what race you are. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I want for Whoopi to look at this situation and say, hey, this happened. Cools. Now I know where not to go next time around. But I don't want for her to do that based off of the fact that she feels no, that she's walking on eggshells, that they can't actually have a real authentic discussion because she'll be stepping on toes, because people will, think that that's too out there. Like, I don't want for her to do it for that reason. I want for her to do it from the reason of she's become more educated on the actual topic of discussion. You feel me? So it should never come based out of fear, where you fear talking about highly sensitive topics. No, that's exactly what they're doing in school. You understand what I'm saying? They're not having the real conversations that needs to be had. So for 8 hours a day, sometimes 10, right? These kids are in school, and now you're telling me they're not going to be learning about the real world. But yet when they graduate, they're going to be expected to be able to cope in the real world and become a productive member of society. How? You have to prepare them. You've got to enable them to understand their history, no matter how it is, no matter how gruesome it is, no matter how heartbreaking it is, no matter how raw it is. They need to understand their history so they know how to never get there, or go back there or revisit there. Like, they have to know where they come from so they understand where they need to go. It's the same thing for individuals who are Caucasian. It's not just about what Black people went through with slavery. It's about white people and their trials and tribulations, but also it's about the fact that they have to go ahead and put in for themselves the understanding that, hey, this is also what has happened, what my ancestors did in this situation here. And when I go out into the world or with my classmates, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make the same mistake. You can't expect for people to change behavior that they're unaware about. You understand what I'm saying? Like, racial tolerance is necessary. And I feel like we live in a very intolerant society where there's cancel everything. Cancel a business, cancel a product, cancel an artist, cancel an actress, cancel a this, cancel a that. It's just like there's so many cancellations. I mean, soon, you never know, the human race may be canceled. So I think, guys, we have to really look at ourselves a little bit more in depth and see where we went wrong and how we can bridge the gap in making sure that our past mistakes as adults we don't offer to our children, and the trials and tribulations and the grievances that our ancestors went through, we don't pass it on to the new generation. But we won't know what that is unless we keep it real and 100% with our children. And I think the school system is doing a very dangerous and a very disturbing thing, and they need to get their stuff together. Okay. But parents, this is where it now comes to you, because you have to now educate your children. Your children are not going to be educated in school the way they need to be. You need to educate them. Okay,